So it's a real mix of disasters, conflicts, marine casualties, offshore work. But they all have this similar element of time is often of the essence. It's often a bit, feels like a confined space you're working in. And there's a real tempo to them as well. They're not 9-to-5 jobs. You take it all home with you, either to your hotel room or to your home, and you're back in the morning again. So working in the post-disaster and during the conflict, very intense and very overwhelming, and often difficult to know where to start, because feeling overwhelmed and feeling that I haven't really got a grip. Things are very loose and very disparate. And in the past, when I felt like that, I haven't realized it myself. And I've obviously been performing it sort of at speed, but I'm not sure I was that effective. But recently, over the last years, working to understand better my sort of state of mind and what we do in the field of possibility, really now I have a better sense and a feeling for when I'm starting to go off kilter, and that's when I can stop myself and go, wait a minute, this is going the wrong way. You're losing perspective, you're losing insight. Maybe now is the time to pull back a bit or reflect or use one of your recovery tools that I've learned. Going back off for deployment, there's obviously things you take with you, but I think now what I try to do, not always successfully, what I try to do is put a bit of perspective to it, and also understanding my place in it, and understanding my limits of what I can actually do and achieve versus what I would love to be able to do with 36 hours in the day and 16 arms. I think now I'm better equipped to understand what I can and can't do, and also give myself a break. I think that's really key for me, is I've begun to give myself a break and go, Mox, you just stop. You can't do it all. You need to pause. You need to go and do something else. You need to reconnect. You need to come home in your own self and find calm, because otherwise you're going to jump off that cliff again, sort of thing. When we come back from those situations and you come back home, and it can be really difficult to connect back home, especially if you only got 1 or 2 weeks back home. I found it difficult whilst working sort of in Bosnia and Kosovo to come back home and to be engaged, because I knew I was going back out, and I took a lot of it back home with me. And I think, so over the last years working and understanding better my state of mind and sort of with nature and body, I've come to find recovery tools that I can draw on to find that equilibrium, to find that steadiness, to find that pause. And it may just be for a couple of minutes, or it could be for a couple of hours. A couple of hours is a bit of a luxury, but it could be just for a couple of minutes. And it just allows me to reset a little bit and sort of, okay, I'm understanding again my place in all of this, and I am trying to become more present, and then I can go sort of back into the fold, let's say, with a more steady and clear mind, I think. Well, I was in Gaza recently, and that was obviously very intense, and you're driving around a lot and you're seeing really desperate situations, and I can remember getting very physically and emotionally distressed, and this was towards the end of a 10-day visit, and I realized I hadn't for several days been connected to myself in a way. I'd been very much externally focusing, and it was in a car, we were driving along the coast, and I suddenly realised I'd been externally focused, and I came back to myself, and I came back to Mox and where I am at and what I'm trying to do, and realised that I can only do what I can do in this situation. I can't save the situation. I can only do, and that in a way made me sort of rest a bit more in myself and go, you're okay. You're doing everything you can. You also need to look after yourself. This is a good moment to just pause and to, again, I think, connect in with myself and my body and where I'm at. And I remember we were driving to a meeting, and I remember entering that meeting in a really quite a, not a floating place, but a very sort of calm place. And I could feel my colleagues were all really revved up, but I was feeling really calm, and I worried a little bit that maybe I was disconnected from the meeting. But it was a really functional meeting, really productive, and it made me realise that I can still perform and support even if I'm not in a revved up state. I can still perform and support even if I'm in a really calm place that is maybe a little bit different to everybody else. Yeah, it's a calmness that comes when I, without disparaging what I'm seeing, I still have full respect and sorrow for it, but yet I realize that I'm not any good if I'm in a completely revved up and completely externally focused way. Because decisions, I don't think decisions are the best. I don't think what I say is sometimes the best. And I sometimes will enter into situations feeling off kilter, whereas I can be in the same situation, same scenario, but come at it in a calmer way and a more sort of innately present way. And I think I'm better. I think I'm better at decisions. I think I'm better at support. But what's just as important for me is also the sort of that when I'm not working or at home context. So recently had a big salvage project. We're traveling a lot around the Middle East, bouncing around different ports and trying to find a solution. And I realized when I was coming home from those visits, I was really quite distant. I definitely wasn't present. I didn't really pick up on what was going on around me at home. So I with the kids, what they were up to, and then I was off again, and it just kept building every time I came home. It felt like it was getting more and more disconnected. And that's even just like a year and a half ago, after having done some work with Field of Possibility and things. And it took me a little while to actually stop and go, whoa, this is, this project will come and go, like everything. Things come and they go, but I'm not coming and going. I'm always going to be here. So I really, that took a while, but then I realized that I wasn't going to be able to be there for my family or for work if I carried on like this, because I would just, I'd fall apart a bit. So I did just recalibrate. And that was a big step, because that's meant saying, mainly to my family, saying, look, I just need a couple of days of maybe on my own or something. I unfortunately didn't do it to work. I should have said to work, I can't do a couple of days, rather than to my family. But fortunately, they were forgiving enough to let me have that.
So given the amount of time you've worked overseas for long periods, what appeals to you about being able to take time out and do these nature-based coaching immersions?
There's a real recalibration. There's a real sense of coming back to yourself, in a way coming back home to yourself, not physical home, but just coming back home. I think also remember to love yourself, remember to look after yourself, and then once that's sort of realized, I think then for me, there is the starting to look outwards again. I would really hope my colleagues and those that I work with were able to find a bit of peace and calmness every now and then. Not all the time, we can't expect that, but just every now and then to be able to find a place where they can nourish and they can draw on their own inner sort of strengths, or whatever you call it. And that doesn't have to be walking around the field or going to the cliffs or jumping in the sea, but I think by having the nature immersion of doing those, you get to remember what it used to be like, maybe as a kid, or maybe just like the wonderment of everything. And then so I can sit in a hotel room, or I can sit in an airport terminal, and I can still feel quite a bit of the strength of that by just closing my eyes and just remembering the force of the waves or the calling of the buzzard. So I think if for my colleagues and for those I work with and for everybody, being able to find peace and calmness within yourselves every now and then is a real nourishing and just makes you stronger in a way of being able to be yourself and to be there for others as well. So I don't think there's no easy solution. For me, it's about understanding that what you're thinking and everything that's building up and the overwhelm is a lot to do with what you're thinking. And there are ways to draw down and to find calmness and to just be more present and better, I suppose. I think people should be aware when they come that they will have your whole attention, because you're really good at being present. You're good at listening, you're good at being present with them, and you're also inquisitive, which means that people won't get away with glib remarks about how they're doing or how they're feeling. And I think that's really important, that we are so good at saying, yeah, it's fine, or, oh, yeah, it was okay, or, oh, I found it really difficult, full stop. I think you're very good at exploring what was difficult about it. What do you mean you're fine? And I think as part of your process, naturally, I think you're very good at enabling people to reveal to themselves their innate health. So you're very good at allowing people to find out for themselves that actually they're okay, they're not broken. And then once you realize that, I mean, I've been through that myself. Once I realized I'm okay, I'm not broken, that then puts me on a pedestal to really start working and building upwards. And I think you have a real skill in being able to get people to that stage, and then working with them to grow again. People should be aware that to get the most out of these sessions, it's really about also opening up and being honest. So I think you're looking for people to be honest, because otherwise they're not going to help themselves.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes be a little bit tough for all of us. But I think that's really key. And it doesn't hurt, there's no harm, but it's just, yeah, I think people should be aware that this is also about being honest. And it may be that for many people, they don't often get a chance to be honest and open. And so having somebody there who is non-judgmental, who is listening and who's present, could be something novel to many people, I think, and truly valuable as well.